profession, that sort of thing.
Not really.
So, where was it again that you went? You went to Shanghai, China, but you said you were on a destroyer
The Yangtze River.
at the mouth of the Yangtze River? Yeah, for a month or two.
Yeah.
And what other fun stories can you tell us from that adventure?
Oh, not much. Like I say, I was so lucky. My whole experience in the Navy, I spent the whole war going to school. I got in the Navy V-12 college training program, and I went to UC Berkeley
Right.
as an apprentice seaman, and they
Your
paid
turn.
for all my education
At Berkeley
at Berkeley
for being
what about
in the
it?
Navy.
in the Navy. So I graduated there in, I don't know, February 45, I think. From there I went to Columbia University, to midshipman school, and from there I was commissioned as an ensign. That was in June of 45.
What, an ensign?
Yeah,
What's that?
that's junior officer.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't know these details. Understand them.
And from there I went to Cornell University, to diesel school, and that's where I sat on VJ Day. And right after VJ Day, they shut that school down and shipped us all out. And that's when I took off from Cornell University across the country, and out in the Pacific. I was supposed to get on a merchant ship, but I couldn't find it, and that's when I ended up on a destroyer.
You couldn't find it?
No.
So you wandered around in the general area, didn't you?
Yeah,
From port to port, looking for
His
this particular ship that I was looking for. Yeah.
and they just let you on another ship?
they finally reassigned me to this destroyer.
Huh.
So he was wandering around on this ship to that port to this port, looking for his particular ship that he was supposed to be on. So he makes it sound simple.
Did you ever find out what happened to that ship you were supposed to be on?
Nope.
Huh.
Maybe it was a ghost ship.
Yeah.
Ghost ship.
I can't even remember the name of it now. I've got it written down somewhere. In any case, like I said, I was so lucky. So then I came back, and like I say, came into San Diego, and then from there went down through the Panama Canal, up the East Coast to the Brooklyn Navy Yard, where we had some modifications done on our destroyer. From there I went down to Charleston, South Carolina, to the Navy Yard down there, and we mothballed the ship.
Mothballed the ship?
Yeah, took it out of service and supposedly fixed it so it wouldn't deteriorate.
Huh.
And anyway, that's when I got out of the Navy in June of 46.
And then you drove all the way back with a couple of buddies,
Yeah,
bought some old car back on the East Coast, and drove back across the northern part of the states, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then one of the officers on the ship gave him a Tommy gun or some kind of a gun.
Some sort of what?
Gun to bring back to the West Coast for him. I've forgotten his name. But anyhow, he brought it back and we had it for a long time. And finally one time we went down to, what's this, a recorder?
Maybe.
So one time we went down to the Stockton area. You don't remember this?
With the Thompson submachine gun.
With the gun.
A machine gun?
Yeah, it's a full automatic 45. It's pretty neat gun.
Did you see it?
I know what those are.
One time, well, I don't know how big it was, but anyhow,
They're traveling with a machine gun.
yeah, well, it was kind of decommissioned or not really workable, I don't think, but anyhow, that officer had given it to Loring to bring back to the West Coast for him. And we had it for many years. And then one time we went down to the Stockton area and Zumwalt, he was Captain Zumwalt was his name. And so we were down to the Stockton area or on our way to Disneyland one time from Moraga. And so he knew that the family was in the Stockton area. So as we went down through there, driving to Disneyland from Moraga, we took that gun down with us and tried to find the family. I don't think he was there, but his parents were there. And so, anyhow, we gave him the gun.
His parents?
Yeah. Got it out of our hands
That's funny.
because this was when we had all the girls at that point.
A machine gun at home with 4 girls.
Yeah. And let's see, Rhonda was at least, well, we moved to Moraga when she was a year old. And so Debbie at that point was 9 or 10, and he'd been out of the service for 10 or 12 years. And that's how long we had that gun. And so, anyhow, he wanted to give it to the rightful owner. So, because it wasn't his, I mean, he had to be honest about it, so he wanted to get it to the rightful owner.
Yeah.
So, anyhow,
Sweet.
we dropped it off at his folks in the Stockton area. And I don't know if they cared one way or another. He wasn't there. Zumwalt wasn't there. But the name was Zumwalt, and he rose up into pretty high ranks in the Navy.
Yeah, he became, I don't know.
Admiral or something.
Well, with a name like Zumwalt,
It's easy to look up.
you're gonna go places.
Yeah. So,
So then, when did you start working for CH2M Hill?
okay. You want me to tell?
Fine, I don't remember.
Okay.
When I first got home, I went to work for East Bay Mud, right?
No, you didn't. You
Huh?
went to work, no. You went to work for a diesel engine company. You were living with your folks and worked for a diesel engine company. And
What?
a diesel engine company. And,
Oh, yeah, Union Diesel.
right.
So wait, when did you guys get married in relation to him going away to the Navy?
Oh, well, I didn't even know him.
Okay.
I had no idea. When I graduated from high school is when he graduated or got out of the UC Berkeley, which the Navy had sent him to
Okay.
at the 12 program. So, I mean, he was out there in the service, but in this 6-day-a-week school program.
Wow.
And early in the morning, calisthenics, exercise, running, I mean, all the other college people weren't, but the service guys had to do that. That was part of the routine. And I didn't know him then. And then in the summer of
47.
summer of 47, he was out of the service, had just gotten out of the service. And we were up at Yosemite with my folks, Mary Jo, me, Richard.
That's when they played the song.
Huh?
The song.
The song?
Indian Love Call.
Yeah, oh yeah. And so,
Peter remembers he was there.
Now, that was a year after I got out of the Navy.
yeah, a year after he got out of the Navy, but in the
Yeah.
meantime, he'd been,
Summer of 47.
yeah, I'd been working at this Union Diesel company.
You were working there too?
Not me,
Oh, just Papa.
just Papa.
Okay.
And so then they went defunct, and he didn't have a job for a while. And then he was in a cousin's wedding in Sacramento. Well, this was after I had met him. I met him.
But let's talk
Backtrack.
about how we met.
Okay.
We were vacationing in Yosemite.
I was with
I was
my
up there with my brother Bob, and she was with her whole family, and so
Right.
my brother and Mary Jo
We're in the same high school class.
knew each other from high school. They ran into each other at dance at Camp Curry and decided they ought to get their brother and sister together. So they introduced us
The next day.
the next day.
It was a blind date. So Mary Jo and Bob decided that their big brother and big sister should meet each other, and we should all go bike riding the next day. So they were supposed to come about 1 o'clock. They got over there about 11:30. Yeah, and I had my hair up in curlers and everything else, getting ready to meet this guy
In Yosemite.
in Yosemite. Yeah,
Camping with your hair up in curlers
Right.
and going on a blind date.
right. And I just say they got there about an hour and a half early. So.
Oh, and he still must have liked you
Oh,
with your
yeah.
hair in curlers and
Oh,
everything.
yeah. So then we went bike riding and had fun. Then we went to the dance that night again at Camp Curry. And so, and he lived in Oakland, we lived in Oakland. We only lived about 5 or 6 blocks from each other.
Wow.
And he was still living at his folks'. And then not too long after that, he had a cousin that lived in Sacramento who was getting married. So his cousin wanted him to be, I don't think best man, but one of the groomsmen. So
What was that?
Nolner, Dick Nolner. So I went with him in his nice yellow convertible, which was fun. And I stayed with friends in Sacramento, and no, they lived outside of Sacramento, the ones I stayed with. And he was at the wedding, which I didn't go to, or maybe I did. Anyhow, after the wedding and reception, we were headed home, back to Oakland. And he was tired and a little bit hungover probably from the reception. So he wanted me to drive, and I was just still learning to drive. And I said, well, I know my way around Sacramento because I had gone to school there in the 9th grade. And so anyhow, driving along, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm supposed to turn there. So I turned and ran into a tree.
With his yellow convertible?
Yep, with his yellow convertible. Right poetry.
And you still married her?
Yeah. Thought I chased her for about a year
Oh.
before she agreed to marry me.
Well, she had to. She probably felt guilty.
She was a star point in the
Eastern Star,
Eastern Star, and I chased her all over the
East Bay.
East Bay going to, she had to go to these meetings, what, once a week or?
Something like that.
What's a star point?
Well, the Eastern Star is a part of the Masons,
Oh.
and so it's just men and or women can belong. But my dad was a Mason, so that way I could become an Eastern Star. And mother was an Eastern Star, which was just another leg of the Masons.
Hmm.
And so anyhow, so they had the star points, and each star represented something else, faith, hope, you know,
Hmm.
something good. And so there were a lot of chapters of Eastern Star, like there's a lot of chapters or organizations of the Masons. And so all the way around the Bay Area, there were different Eastern Star groups.
Hmm.
So I don't know how often they did it, but you had to go to each chapter to honor that Eastern Star, that star point. So since I was an Ada, that was my star point.
What, Ada? What is that?
Well, that was the name of this point that I was representing. So Eastern Star had 5 points on it. And so anyhow, like the El Cerrito or the Oakland chapter, all the Adas were supposed to go to honor that particular star point at their special month or whatever it was. So I don't know how often we did that. But if you could, you went to honor that particular star point. And it was a simple ceremony, and then they had refreshments and stuff and all. I don't really remember. But anyhow, he would follow me around.
To these things?
Yeah, to these. And he had nothing else to do, I guess. I don't know.
Except for chase a beautiful lady.
Yeah, so.
Well, anyway, like I say, we met in the summer of '47, we didn't get married until February '49, so that's, what, a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's see, where did we go from there?
You just left something at the front door.
Yeah, it was a man.
It's just the mailman. Keep going,
Yeah.
So,
woman.
when he was, when we were dating, we went to the officers club once in a while in Alameda, and for dinners or dances or whatever. And we also used to go out to his fraternity in Berkeley.
What fraternity was that?
Phi Delta Theta.
Phi Delta Theta.
Yeah. So we'd go out there, and of course that was college party stuff, you know.
No, Granny, I don't know.
You don't know what that is?
What
Well-
does that mean?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, that's what it was.
Huh, tight lips.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the unfortunate things, once in a while, no, it only happened once, but that's because I remember it. That was in Berkeley, and we lived in East Oakland, and they didn't have freeways in those days, so it was a windy, twisty road from Berkeley back to East Oakland. And being in the basement of the fraternity house or wherever it was, and all this drinking, this one time I got sick to my stomach, and we landed at my house, and I said, oh, so I had to lean out the door and regurgitate. So then he helped me to the door, but unbeknownst to me later on, then he would go home to his house and he filled up buckets of water and come back and wash down the gutter. Then he'd go back home and get another bucket full and wash down the gutter some more.
Why didn't he fill up the bucket at your house?
It would make too much noise. So, yeah.
And he didn't want your parents to be mad?
Right. So that's what a gentleman he was.
Aww.
Yeah. So then when we went to Sacramento and I ran the car into the tree, then we had to, I don't know how we got to the train station. Someone came up to the door and said, "Are you guys okay?" Well, yeah, we were okay. I don't remember how we got to the train station. We had to take a train home from Sacramento back to Oakland. And so the car was left in Sacramento at a garage to be repaired enough to be driven home. And so at that time Papa wasn't even working, so he went back to Sacramento when they told him that the car was ready or could be driven. He went back to Sacramento, I guess on the train or something, I don't know, and drove his car home and had to work on it at home. And we had that nice yellow convertible for quite a while.
What kind of car was it, Papa?
Oh, it was a 1941 Oldsmobile 68 convertible. I really liked it. It was great.
Nice car.
Just had a few splinters.
Yeah.
It just had a few splinters from the tree that she made it kiss.
You know, she remembers all that stuff. I can't remember any of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
Even
That's
when she reminds me of it, I can't remember.
Well, anyhow, he was not working.
Alzheimer's.
He was not working, so we worked on his nice convertible and got it all running and fixed and everything. But he was still at his folks, and his dad charged him room and board all the time. And then he got a job at East Bay Mud, which is East Bay Municipal Utility District, as a junior engineer. And so that worked out fine. And then maybe we were already engaged at that point. And because they gave us a big mirror, and that's up at Tahoe.
oh yeah.
Yeah. And so then I would once in a while meet him after work, and we would catch the train home or whatever. And let's see what else, how things go from there.
Didn't we rent an apartment?
We rented an apartment. We were on about the third floor. The bottom floors were garages, and the second floor was someone else, and then we were on the third floor, and then there was one above us. And then you took the bus to work, and at that point, and my dad picked me up, and I went to work with him. I mean, at the same place, at the Naval Supply Depot.
Oh.
And I was working there. I went to work at the Naval Supply Depot between my junior and senior year in high school. And when I graduated from high school, I went back
Oh.
full time. And then that's where Dad worked.
What did he do there?
He was a crane operator,
Oh.
which was loading and unloading ships. That's a
Wow.
naval supply. It was a port area,
Uh-huh.
plus a big warehouse area. And as a junior typist, between junior and senior high school, I typed out orders for the ships,
Oh.
guys on board ship, and it would have these long JTWXYZ 157897, or invoice numbers,
Mm-hmm.
stock numbers. And I was always so worried that I would type a 7 instead of an 8, and they would get the wrong, because I've heard stories about these poor guys that needed a certain piece or part, and it never came, but some other odd something would come in its place, which didn't fit or it wasn't the right thing at all. But that was because of the mistakes of the typists.
Wow.
So you would have all these big long numbers of things that they would need, a certain wrench, a certain bolt or screw or whatever, and what we typed, it was supposed to be checked. There were checkers that was supposed to check our work against what the order was. So maybe they would make mistakes, or maybe the typist would make mistakes, but then it should have been caught by the person that was checking the orders,
Yeah. Hopefully.
hopefully. And maybe they would make a mistake, who knows, but anyhow, that was my job then. But when I went back after I had graduated, then I worked in the department where we sold surplus. It was called the surplus supplies of the Navy.
Huh.
So we had all kinds of stuff. So once every few weeks we would put out huge catalogs listing what all this stuff might be. It might be shoes, it might be cots, it might be jackets, it could be Jeeps, it could be almost anything
Wow.
that was surplus material that the Navy didn't need anymore. So these catalogs were sent out to,
And that's because the war had ended.
the war ended in June.
Okay.
June, yeah, it was in June. And so yeah, they had all this surplus material. So anyhow, sometimes it was shipped from, sometimes it was ammunition, or steel ammunition boxes, or it could be anything, shoes,
Wow.
jackets, anything, just all kinds of stuff. And anyhow, I put Lauren's dad on the list one time, and he was surprised at all the stuff that was sent out. And then all these, there were guys that had Navy surplus outlets, and
Oh, yeah.
so they would bid on this stuff. So after these catalogs would go out, and they could go and inspect or whatever, and then they would put it in their bid, and it was sealed bids. And so whenever they had the opening of the bids, it was part of my job to record their bids on whatever the items might be. But there was an officer that would open the bids, and very often a check was enclosed, or they had to put so much money down. And it was part of my job to record these bids from Joe Blow and Henry and John, or whoever, and then the high bidders, and sometimes nothing was bid on. They didn't want certain items. And so wherever the bids material was located, it was shipped from there to these different places. And I did that up until I don't know, I guess I was over about four girls. And then when we got married, I didn't get pregnant until a year and a half later. And so I guess I worked for a little while. And then there was an older man that was in the same area that I was. And he needed the job, so I said, well, I'll just quit, you know. But I was pregnant, so,
Yeah.
and I didn't need to go back to work, so he could have the job.
Because Papa was working at that time.
Yeah, he was working at East Bay Mud
Right.
at that time. And we still lived in the apartment. And our our garage was, well, the building was on the corner, sort of, but our garage was on kind of one end, and it was the sidewalk and then an incline to get into the garage. And it was kind of difficult being pregnant and climb up, you know, driving into that garage. And anyhow, then Debbie was born. When she was born, the day that when I had to go to the doctor, it was getting close, and I said, well, I asked Mother to go with me, because it was way downtown, and I think I was still driving, and so I had quite a bit of walking to do. So I had my usual pre-med or pre-op or whatever it was that morning, and afterwards, and that was okay. And then afterwards I said to Mother, you know, I don't feel quite right, so I think I better call Loring and have him come get us and take us home or something.
How far along were you in your pregnancy?
Yeah, I was due.
Oh.
It was that time,
Oh.
and but the nurse or doctor didn't think anything about it. So I guess we did go home. That's right. We went all the way home, which was East Oakland. The hospital was downtown Oakland. And I said, well, I think we better call Loring, because I think something's happening. So we waited. He got all the way home on the bus and drove me back to the hospital, way back downtown, and stayed with me. And he didn't stay with me. He didn't like hospitals, so he didn't stay in the room with me. Didn't tolerate the odors and smells and whatever. So they gave me a coddle. They gave me a sleeping pill,
Oh.
and it put me out like
Yeah.
that.
That's the way they used to do it.
Yep, and I couldn't even sit up for the coddle shot.
You're talking about the anesthesia of the lower, like
Yeah,
an epidural.
yeah,
Right.
okay. And I couldn't sit up, and they would try to sit still, sit up. You know, I was out. And so then after a while they were trying to shake me and said, okay, it's time. Okay, you know, so I couldn't perform, I couldn't do a thing.
Yeah, they drugged you.
Yeah, they did, a sleeping pill. As far as I knew, you know, that's all they gave me. Because I wanted to be awake. I wanted to be
Yeah, functioning.
functioning during all this exciting thing. Anyhow, so I couldn't assist pushing, so that they used forceps, and Debbie's cheeks were all scarred, and they had some intern that was assisting and didn't really know what he was doing either. So, well, anyhow. So then we went back to the apartment. No, we went home to
Did
my
you
mother's.
stay overnight in the hospital or no?
I think I was there for 3 or 4 days, yeah. And this was Kaiser Hospital downtown Oakland. Then we went back to Mother's and was there, I don't know for how long, a week or 2 weeks or so. And I think while I was there, my dad's mother passed away, I think, or his dad passed away. His mother passed away when I was working at the Naval Supply Depot. And he came to tell me at my office. And anyhow, then I think when, right after Debbie was born, I think was when his dad had passed away. And so anyhow, I was there at Mother's for, maybe a week or so. And then we went back to the apartment, and then we went skiing again.
What? How soon after you gave birth?
She was born in September,
Uh-huh.
or maybe it was the next year.
Skiing by
Or maybe it was the next year we went skiing. And she was a couple of months old.
What do you want? I've got all the birth dates in my pocket.
Yeah, well, what, your mother,
No, we're trying to
Yeah,
figure out. We know when my mom was born. She was born on your birthday.
yeah, right. But I was trying to remember when we went skiing, and I hurt my knee skiing, tore the cartilage in this knee.
When your baby was a newborn?
Well, when she was very young, and I couldn't walk, couldn't carry her.
Oh boy.
So, and we were we had to climb stairs to get to our apartment. And so then, when I got out of the hospital, yeah, she wasn't very old. And so
My mother tore her knee also.
did she?
Yeah.
Skiing?
Uh-huh.
So did my mom. I tore mine playing rugby.
Oh my.
That's,
Well, we had gone skiing.
Playing Oxford, actually.
oh, God. Ouch.
We had gone skiing, and I couldn't lift her or climb up and down stairs or anything after I got, so then I had a friend come get me and Debbie, and so I could go to the doctor, and he could look at my knee, because I'd wake up in the middle of the night and that thing would be hurting so bad, because the torn one would get under my kneecap. And so I had this friend Barbara come drive us to the hospital. Well, I had to stay. He said, Dr. Orthopedic said, well, we've got a surgery, like right now. So Barbara took Debbie home and my mother was working, went back to work in the meantime, and took the baby to his mom. And so after I got out of the hospital with that, then we went and stayed with his folks. And so his mom was taking care of Debbie then, and doing all the cooking and whatever, because I couldn't do anything.
Wow.
And in the meantime, Papa was riding the bus to work downtown, East Bay Mud, and we were there for, oh golly, I don't know how long we were there. And in the meantime, I was trying to exercise this thing, and then I was on crutches until we could finally go back to our apartment. And we were back in our apartment by Christmas time, I think. Well, anyhow, I have pictures of Debbie in the apartment. Because our first Christmas card was of her. In the apartment. Cute little thing. She looked like the
Gerber baby.
Gerber baby. Just like her. And anyhow, I think when Debbie was a year old, almost a year old, is when we moved out to Lafayette. In the meantime, we bought a house. It was a brand new house. So we moved out there. And it was a modern house, flat top. And one time, when she was walking, I don't know, she was a little bit older than Annalise. We had a ladder on one side of the garage, and I heard this noise on top, you know, footprints, and here was Debbie, had climbed the ladder
Oh my goodness.
and was rolling around on the roof.
As a toddler.
Yeah,
Oh my
Right.
goodness. She obviously survived.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyhow, then we lived there for 8 years. 8 years? No, it wasn't that long. Rhonda was only a year old when we moved to our next house in Moraga.
Rhonda?
That was the name of the second house. We lived in Lafayette first, and then about 4 or 5 miles, if that far, to Moraga.
Moraga.
To another.
You skipped all the other 2 children.
Huh? No, they were all born.
Yeah, you missed their stories.
Oh.
Bam, bam, bam. They happened.
They happened. And then
No, there
Rhonda
was
was
3
born.
years, 3 years between Debbie and Cheryl, and maybe 2 years between Cheryl and Laura. I don't know how many, and only a year and a half between Rhonda and Laura. But they were all born while we lived in the Moraga, Lafayette house. So 4 little girls in 1 bathroom.
We know what that feels like.
So we knew that something had to change. So then we located this other area that they were building houses. And we picked out a floor plan and did some adjustments to the floor plan
Where is this?
in Moraga.
Okay.
And
And we have 5 bedrooms in that house.
yeah, we designed the house there. And so it had 4 bedrooms. It had a master bedroom and master bath and big walk-in closet with sliding glass doors out the back. And then there was a hallway and the family bathroom there and this hall and 4 bedrooms there. And all those bedrooms, the doors between the bedrooms, the walls between the bedrooms were not
Insulated?
no, they were not, they could be taken out.
Oh, they weren't permanent.
No.
Okay.
So each girl had her own bedroom, but if someone later wanted to take out, they were not, what's my word, Gentry? They were not,
Yeah, gentry.
They were suspended. They
well,
were
they weren't suspended, but they were not,
framed. They weren't part of the foundation. They weren't.
You're not helping
They weren't
gentry.
joist. They weren't.
Keep going.
They were flanged. They were.
I'll tell you at midnight tonight.
She will too.
Wake
You know
up.
it.
They come out and tell me.
She will.
Right.
We know Granny will. Watch out.
Yeah, so anyhow, they weren't something that could be, they weren't there to stay. They were something that could be removed.
Interesting.
And,
Temporary.
well, anyhow, that's so that when anyone else eventually bought the house,
Uh-huh.
those could easily be removed
Mhm.
and have one big bedroom on either side then. Or two little ones and a big one. Or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything like that.
and so anyhow, so the little girls all each had their own bedrooms and closets. And the bathroom, which was just one bathroom. Laura, one time, I had a box of Kleenex, I guess, on top of the toilet. And she was pulling out the Kleenex and
Oh
watching them
no.
dissolve in the toilet.
Oh no.
Oh, that's fun. You know, because a Kleenex, once it got wet, it would just kind of melt, you know. And so I discovered that one time. Oh, for good heavens, I should know. Plug up the toilets, but I didn't. I caught her before it got too full and was able to take them out. And another story on Laura. We had chickens. We had a few chickens on the side of the house. And so in the garage was way over here. And in the meantime, Loring had, as soon as we got there, he built this big long deck all across the back end of the house. So the living room opened onto the deck, the family room kitchen area opened onto the deck, and our master bedroom opened onto this long deck.
Nice.
Because we had a cover on it, so Papa had built this big long deck. So one day Laura was running back and forth on this deck, not just continuously. What are you doing, Laura? And she had gone into the garage and was getting hands full of yard fertilizer and feeding the chickens so that we could have little chickens. She had asked, why can't we have little chickens? Well, the eggs have to be fertilized. So this is what she was doing, was fertilizing the chickens and the eggs so we could have little chickens.
Aww.
So while we were there, we had a dog and a cat. We had chickens and turtles and
Jeez.
yeah, we had all kinds of stuff. I can't remember how many animals.
So
And
with-
we had birds. Debbie had birds. So we had all kinds of animals while we lived there.
Yeah, with it being built and being so fantastic, why did you move to Reading?
Dad was approached from a company in Reading, and they needed an engineer, and he had been recommended, and so this owner of this engineering firm in Reading, Mr. Hill, had called him and contacted him and wanted to know if he was interested.
Wait, so Mr. Hill of CH2M Hill
Right.
approached Papa?
Well,
Papa.
initially, it was Claire Hill
Claire Hill and Associates.
who contacted me, and he had his own business in Reading. But after I moved up there and worked for him for a while, that's when they merged with CH.
2.
CH2M Hill, but you're ahead of the game.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Hill.
But you're ahead of the game.
It was Cornell, Holland, and Hayes.
Yeah, CH2M Hill.
Cornell, Holland, and Hayes. So when they merged, they said CH2M Hill.
Ah.
But then while we were living in Moraga, he was still working for East Bay Mud. Mr. Hill approached him and asked him if he would consider coming up there. So he said, I'll come down and pick you up. So he flew his own plane down and picked Papa up and took him up and showed him around up there.
Reading.
Yeah, and then when they came back, then we all drove up, and Mr. Hill put us up in a motel, had us to his home a couple of times for dinner, took us all up in his airplane and showed us Whiskey Town and Shasta Lake and all, trying to entice us on moving up there. So it looked pretty good. It was a small town, and so we went back to Moraga, and he thought, well, he thought, this might not be a bad idea. So he gave East Bay Mud his notice and told Mr. Hill, fine, he would join them as an engineer. And so then he left Moraga and moved up to Reading and was in a motel there for a month or so. He would come home on weekends on the train. I had to drive to Martinez to pick him up on the train and drive back to Moraga, and then on Sunday afternoon or night I would drive him back to Martinez to catch the train again, which went right from there to Reading. And then that went on for about a month or two. In the meantime, he was looking for a place for us up there. And then I went up somewhere along the line and spent a week with a real estate agent looking around.
With the girls, or was somebody watching the girls?
I think we had the girls. I don't remember. Mother was working. His mother was. They at that time lived up in Paradise. They had moved to Paradise, and Mother was working, so I guess I had the girls. I must have. So anyhow, I drove around with the real estate agent. I must have had the girls, I don't know. And he showed me all these different houses, and he was showing me the west side of town, which was fine, but I didn't see anything. So having moved from a 5-bedroom house, I wanted another 5-bedroom house, or at least 4, you know. And at that time, they weren't building houses that big. So then we found a house in the east side of town for rent, for lease. And it was only 3 bedrooms, but bedrooms weren't too bad. So we lived there under lease for a year. And then the people put a sign out in front for rent because our lease was getting up. So then we thought, well, in the meantime, I was working still with a realtor and still didn't find anything we were happy with or wanted.
Somebody's there.
Roscoe
That's
now.
good.
Debbie.
Back up, little lovies.
And how did you find the house?
Well, I don't know how we found the
Roscoe.
house for rent or lease, but we ended up buying that
The house that you were renting?
Yeah,
Oh, and so then the 2 girls to each room.
yes.
Yeah.
2 girls to each room, and we were only a block
Get a haircut?
from high school,
Don't look any
I mean
different.
grammar school,
Right.
Yeah.
and the high school was about 3/4 a mile maybe.
So, what year was that house built?
Which one?
The one that you lived in Reading?
It was only about 5 years old.
So, which is when?
Well, that was in 40, oh golly.
So it was built in the
We moved there
1940s.
in '66.
Oh, okay.
And Debbie had moved to Reading with Loring and was taking speed reading classes and other classes while they were in Reading. And because she was, it was the summer she was in high school. So I guess it was her, between her freshman and sophomore year in high school. And so anyhow, she was taking speed reading. I don't know that it ever did any good.
So how long did you live in that house that you lived in Reading?
We rented it for a year and then we lived in it for about 35 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you moved to Sparks,
Sparks,
Nevada. And how long have you lived there?
We've lived there for 11 years now.
Wow, time
11 and a
flies.
half.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, I know it. It'll be 12 years in February. We moved first part of February.
And you still have Laura and Rhonda living over near you.
Yeah,
And
Laura's about 2 miles away and Rhonda's about a mile, or 3/4 of a mile.
and Cheryl's not too far.
Cheryl's about 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours away. And Debbie's way up here,
Yes.
and Gentry's way up here.
In the beautiful Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Yay.
I'm gonna be upset when the spring and summer comes around. I'm gonna have to go further north.
Aww.
So after Papa retired, no, before he retired, he had, in the meantime, moved to San Francisco, at the office in San Francisco. And so I was going back and forth, and the company paid for an apartment for us. He was in an apartment when he worked down there, but it was a company apartment for the different engineers that were located down there temporarily. So I couldn't move into that apartment because the different engineers were coming and going. So they rented an apartment for me, for us.
Wow.
And it was only about a block from Pier 39,
Oh, wow.
which was fun.
Yeah.
And cost.
That was when the girls were out of the house by then?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And so and then from there, they had opened in the meantime a big office in El Sobrante, or anyhow on the East Bay. And they had opened an office in East Bay. So then they rented an apartment for us on Lake Merritt. And we were on the 12th floor overlooking the lake,
Beautiful.
which was neat.
Was this
And-
all before or after you guys went to Egypt?
While we lived there, then they asked him if he would be interested in going to Egypt. So, well, yeah, why not? All of our girls were out and away. Rhonda was in school, where? In Sacramento at that point. I don't remember where she was in school. And
So, where did you go to in Egypt?
Alexandria,
And how long were you there?
about 14 months, 14 or 15 months.
Wow.
And then we took trains and planes from Alexandria home. But in the meantime, he skied.
In
Different-
Egypt?
No, not in Egypt, but on the way home, we were in, I don't know, where did you ski? Do you remember where you went skiing one time? One time we did go over to, we would take little jaunts. We would go from Alexandria down over to Cairo for a weekend or so. And I always had to take a train to do that. And one time I went to a bazaar thing there, and I came home with a bunch of copper pots and different things, you know, your mom has some, everyone. And, I'm just trying to think. Then Rhonda, while we were there, Rhonda came over, and I was to meet her at the airport in Cairo. I've never told this story before.
Hi, little goo.
I won't
Hi,
tell
little
it.
goo goo.
Anyhow, we were to meet her at the airport, and we couldn't find her. And I was really upset, because at that time it was not safe for American women or girls to be on the loose, because sometimes they would disappear indefinitely.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, I did finally find her in the airport.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
What an adventure you guys
Yeah,
have led.
we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Well, a good life.
And one time we went over to,
I agree.
one time we booked a time over to one of the islands in the Mediterranean. So we had to take a ship, a ferry over there. So we had reservations, and we thought, well, okay, there's no rush. We'll just sit here waiting until time to load. And so we got there, and we waited and waited, and it was time to load, so no rush. But they all rush, you know, everyone has to be first in line. But we had reservations for a room, a cabin. Got there, and so our cabin was taken.
Even though you had reservations.
Uh-huh. And so then we had to sit aside for a while until they finally found a cabin for us. So anyhow, then we got over to, I can't remember the name of the island. But we had a nice room there and enjoyed staying there and around. And I got a whole bunch of wine labels. We went to a rooftop restaurant one time, and I got a whole bunch of foreign wine labels from the guys that were there, and I have those listed somewhere, or have them in a thing.
Neat.
Let's see, I'm rambling now. Anyhow, we enjoyed our time over there, but when we left there to come back to Alexandria, there again we had reservations. So someone else got our room, so they finally found a place for us, which was down on the bottom of the ferry, right next to the engine room. And also they had a herd of goats and sheep on the same ferry at the same level. So we listened to them doing all their thing all night long in the engine. Chug it, chug it, chug it, chug it. So that was an awful night. Getting back from the island of, started with a C, I can't think of the name of it. So we finally got back to Alexandria.
Sounds good.
So after all this life adventure, 4 girls, 13 grandchildren, and 1 now you're on to a new adventure of great
Right.
grandchildren.
Well, I was going to tell you, on Halloween, we were downtown in Alexandria and passed a travel agency, and they had some sign, trips back to America for, I don't know, a few $100s or something.
Wow.
And I said, oh, I want to do that. So we went in and made arrangements for me to fly back to the States. But he had to stay home because he was working. And so it was on Halloween Eve. And so I made myself a witch hat, and I found a small broom, a small handled broom. So that's what I got off the plane with. And so there was you and Ashley. I guess just you and Ashley met us at the airport with me in my witch's hat and broom on Halloween
Oh.
in San Francisco. And then I don't know, I guess we spent time at Mother's for a little bit. Mother was disappointed when I told her that we were moving to Egypt. And I told her, well, it was a temporary thing. And at the time, she was healthy, you know, she was okay. She was in a mobile home. So then I went home with Debbie, back up to Redding. And I guess I had left my car, our Honda, with Debbie. And so I drove up to Cheryl's to visit with Cheryl. I drove up to visit with Laura and Rhonda in Reno. I was only there home for a week, I guess.
Wow.
A little over a week.
Whirlwind trip.
Yeah, it was. So,
Speaking of your great grandchild, you hear?
yeah. Yeah. And then while I was home in Redding, all these other kids started coming.
Mhm.
That one. Well, you were already there.
But Chris was already born too.
Yes, Chris was already born. You, Chris, and Ashley, I think.
Then all the other kids
Yeah.
started coming.
Yes, they did.
That was way later.
As soon as I got home, they started popping out like once every 6 or 9 months. There'd be another one.
You must have been giving him fertilizer.
I guess. The only one I didn't go and spend time with was when Chelsea came. Because Marilyn, it was her first great-grandchild. Her first grandchild. So I stayed away. Although Debbie was in town, I stayed away and let Marilyn be grandma. Of course, I was close by.
But otherwise, you were present for
Well,
all of the births of your grandchildren, right?
yeah. Well, or right afterwards, anyhow. After Ashley was born. No. Who came first? You came first, then Ashley.
Then Chris.
I was down at Cheryl's. I went down to Cheryl's. They lived in San Bernardino.
San Bernardino.
Uh-huh. Because that's where Bob and Cheryl, or where Bob was stationed. And Cheryl was working. And that's where Ashley was born. So then there was an airline strike, so I had to stay there longer than we
Annalise,
expected.
come here.
Hello, turkey. Hey.
Hi!
Yes. Can you say hi?
Nice outfit there, huh? Nice shoes. You look nice.
Dada.
Yeah. Is that your Thanksgiving
Yes.
outfit?
Dinosaur.
Frank.
Well, let me finish this little part.
Yes.
So I had to stay down in San Bernardino with Cheryl and Bob and Ashley
Uh-huh.
longer because there was an airstrike.
Uh-huh.
And
Nana.
then
Tractor.
I've been
Yum.
home for...
Where's your dad go?
Where did Daddy go?
Dada.
He went to the kitchen. So I was only home about 24 hours. And Debbie called. And Chris was on the way. So I had to drive down to, where was he born? He was born in, where was Chris born? Santa Rosa.
Oh.
Oh, so I had to drive to Santa Rosa,
Look.
leave I don't know if I had to leave in the middle of the night, but I know it was nighttime when I got there. To Santa Rosa for Chris. And here was this big hunk. And he had the most ugly cry. So I was there for a couple of weeks. I wasn't home 24 hours more after Ashley and then Chris. So, whatever, because they were 2 weeks apart. But like I say, I had them for 3 weeks, whatever it was. So anyhow, that's, you know, time went on. More babies.
Yep. And now Ashley is having a baby of her own.
Right, right.
Your second great-grandchild.
Finally. Finally. Took long enough for this one to come.
Yes. The one that ran away.
Yes.
This one. That one. Hi.
Mama. Dada.
That's Papa.
Potato.
Turtle!
Or dinosaur. Either one.
Dinosaur.
Yeah, dinosaur. Yes.
Oh,
Are you kissing the dinosaur?
yeah, she loves her babies, her pets.
Yes, she does.
Cracker.
Want a cracker?
Can I have a cracker? All of them? Or,
Are you feeding the dinosaur?
Yum, yum.
Yum, 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 yum.
You're so nice to share.
So tasty.
Such a sweet girl.
Jump.
Can you say bye-bye, see you later?
Bye bye, see you later.
Annalise, can you tell the video bye-bye, see you later? Say bye-bye.
How do I turn this guy off? Push the button.
Bow. Bow.